Yes, sir.
Good evening and welcome everybody out there to On the Bench, the sports podcast made by the fans for the fans. As always, I'm joined by the best analyst in the business, Mr. North Carolina Tar Heel, defending champion, okay? Mr. Michigan Wolverine, Mr. Sacramento King, Kevin Cornegay, and Mr. Sacramento King, Mr. Yukon, Connecticut Husky, okay, Wolverine, Husky, King,
Huskies.
Huskies, okay, Kings, Mr. Javon Tavares. Guys, I haven't seen you guys in a while, man. Happy Thanksgiving, belated. How was your Thanksgiving?
Blessed, man. Beautiful Thanksgiving.
Is it Halloween or Thanksgiving?
uh, ate a lot of food. So I'm feeling great, man. It was a great Thanksgiving.
Family?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
How about you, Flo? How was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was great Thanksgiving. Great Thanksgiving all the way around. Found myself not eating as much as I have in the past. That was a goal of mine, not
Okay.
to have 3, 4 plates. Instead I had one modest plate and had some leftovers. But I'm feeling a lot better physically from
Okay.
having done that. So I
You
was
don't
happy
have the
about that.
itis. Don't have the itis.
Nah, I'm feeling like I'm about 5 pounds lighter than I usually am during this time, which makes a difference.
Well,
Five
you're
pounds
looking.
makes a difference.
Well, you guys are looking good. I mean, Kevin always looks like an Adonis. You know, you're looking. You
This is
know,
true. This is
Flo,
true.
Flo's looking great. You're in prime football shape. You know, we have it. You have it going down on that end. So we haven't seen everybody out there in a while. You haven't seen us in a while. And another person that we haven't seen in a while is Tiger Woods, who made his return to competitive golf, the 2017 Hero Challenge. Guy hasn't played competitively in 10 months and really only played a tournament and a half in the last 28 months. Now, all he does in his first round back is shoot a 3 under 69. The guy's 3 strokes off the lead of Tommy Fleetwood, and you got, the biggest guys in the business in the mix right now, Ricky Fowler, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Justin Spieth. The guy comes out, hits 7-13 fairways, 11-18 greens in regulation. Now, I just need to know, I'm going to start with Javon because he is an avid golfer. This guy doesn't need a handicap. He goes out there and does it. He's proficient. He's tried to help me with my swing. What do you make of this first round? Am I supposed to get excited? Tiger makes me excited. I mean, he gets out there, he draws you in, he makes you feel he's going to make some heroic comeback. He's fist pumping, he's knocking down 20-foot birdies going downhill. Javon, am I getting overexcited? Should we be optimistic? What do you make of this first round?
Well, Tiger Woods brings nothing but excitement to the world of golf. Say what you will about the man and some of the trials and tribulations he's experienced in his personal life. When it comes to the game of golf, Tiger Woods has done almost more than anyone has done to elevate that game to where it is. You wouldn't have the Ricky Fowlers and the Dustin Johnsons and the Jordan Spieths and the Rory McIlroys if not for Tiger. If you take a look at all of those golfers and you take a look at their physical stature, it doesn't resemble anything like a Jack Nicklaus back in the day. You don't have guys looking like Fuzzy Zeller and Colin Montgomery, guys that look like they're not athletes. These new guys are athletic looking. They have muscles. They have workout regimens. And that's largely based on the blueprint that Tiger Woods used before they came. So it's exciting to have Tiger back. I think clearly he was injured in some of the prior tournaments that he entered, wasn't even able to finish some of those tournaments, and his back. And if, for those of you out there that have ever had a back injury, you don't realize how important the back is to your core muscles and to being able to execute the most fundamental of things for any sport, let alone a golf swing where there's a lot of torque and pressure placed on your back. So it's easy to see why Tiger could never get back to the place, the dominant place that he was, and not even just a dominant place, but back to a place that where he could be a serviceable golfer because of those back injuries. But now he claims that his back is much more healthy. His swing looks a lot more fluid. It doesn't look like there's as much torque or as much jerk on his system. So I don't know why my dog is over here going crazy in the background, but
your dog's a Tiger Woods fan too.
he's excited. He's excited about Tiger Woods. So I think what we could make up this first round is it's a great welcome back round for him. He hasn't been in competitive golf for over a year or so. So I do expect to see him come back to the field a little bit with the second round, as it'll be hard pressed for him to find that same level of consistency that he found in today's round. But I'm certainly rooting for him. He's my favorite golfer, and I'm hoping that he can find that level of consistency with his driver. And we know that when Tiger was at the top of his game, he could crush the ball. He was a great putter. He was great at getting up and down. He was great at making great situations out of bad lies and out of being in the rough for the most part. He never was the most accurate driver. And a lot of that was because he was so long off the tee. So now I'm thinking that this back injury may have him in a place to where his golf swing is a little bit more controlled. Maybe he's able to put the ball in the fairway a little more often. And there's different ways to get it. There's different ways to get it done. If you're a golfer,
Right.
if you have the talent that Tiger Woods has, you can make up for a bad tee shot with a miraculous shot that you muscle out of 3-inch rough. But typically, mostly everybody, or at least the great ones, think that if you hit it in the fairway, give yourself a chance to get on green in regulation, then you'll have an opportunity to get birdie. So we'll see what iteration of Tiger Woods we have. All I know is it's exciting to have him back, and I'm looking forward to see what he does in this tournament and next year. I'm hoping he can stay healthy. I just don't want to see Tiger Woods withdraw from
Right.
another event because his back won't let him do it.
Right, right. Well said. Now, Kevin, obviously this guy just dominated the golf world for the better half of 2 decades. I mean, just an amazing talent and really gave an upswing in golf's attendance and the ratings. He upped the purses, appearance fees, things of that nature, really globalized the game and got a whole demographic of individuals who never watched the game really into the game. So, Kevin, now that he's back, he looks competitive. Is this just pure adrenaline, or is this something that we can expect him to sustain?
I think that Tiger deserves the right for us to be patient to see what he has to offer. I think he's the greatest golfer to ever, lace him up. What do they say? Lace him up or
Grab the swing the club.
Swing the
Greatest
club.
golfer to ever swing the clubs. Yeah.
And he brought the casual fan to the sport of golf. Let's take myself as an example. Back in '97, when he wins his first Masters, I never watched golf, and I started to pay attention. I got so enamored with golf that I actually, senior year in college, I don't know if Javon remembers, I took a golf class with Flo, with Javon, all
Yeah,
because of the exploits of Tiger Woods, the fist pump, bringing excitement to the game, bringing a level of intensity that we only see on the football field or the basketball court and even baseball, hockey, but bringing a level of intensity to the sport of golf, which made it exciting. Let's be honest, it wasn't just because he was the first African American golfer to dominate the sport, but he did it with a swagger. He did it with a pizzazz that a lot of us enjoy watching. And then his friendship, with Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player to ever play, a friendship with Derek Jeter. Just he lined himself up with greatness, guys that dominated their individual sports. and did it in the same manner as Tiger Woods. So just to the casual fan, he brought a lot of us out of the woodwork, and we started paying attention to golf. We started paying attention to his rivals, David Duval or Phil Mickelson, so on and so forth. We started paying attention to those guys as well. So he's brought a lot of excitement to the sport of golf. He's brought a lot of money, and he's made he's made all of us. We appreciate greatness when we see it, no matter what sport it is. And I think Tiger Woods is an example of that. But I think that he deserves our patience. I'm not going to come out, and rip the guy at all. He has some severe injuries as far as his back was concerned. I think he's been out for 2 years. So he reserves the right for us to be patient and to see if he can continue to improve. Is he ever going to be the great Tiger Woods of old? Probably not. A lot of casual fans like myself, we're not necessarily looking to see the great Tiger Woods. We do want to see him have some success. We want to see him win some tournaments, things of that nature. But I'm not looking for him to be the number one golfer in the world anymore. I think that's past. That's past his prime. But I still think that he can compete. And it's always fun to see a guy that goes out there and cares as much as Tiger Woods does about his craft. So I'm excited to see what happens.
I don't know why. I don't know why. There's nothing about the last several years and not winning a major since 2008 that adds up to getting back to the elite level of play that we're accustomed to seeing, or we grew accustomed to seeing from Tiger Woods. Call me crazy. I do want to see that. I think he can come back to that level. I really think that the way that he prepares mentally, physically, barring injury, I don't think he's lost any skill. I think, injuries obviously make you overcompensate, make you not be able to do the things that and execute the shots that you want to execute. I'm not even a golf master by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even know what you would call what I actually do on out on the course. I don't know if you would actually call it golf, but I do swing the club at the ball. But what I have learned just from watching and understanding the sport is that all the mechanics have to line up to execute properly. Even if you have some deficiencies, by the time you strike the ball, things have to be correct. And if you can't generate the kind of power you're accustomed, if you can't shape shots the way that you want to shape shots, it makes it very difficult because you use a lot of muscle groups that I don't think people really give golfers credit for. I didn't think I'd be sore golfing, and then feeling all of these muscles a day after golf. You don't realize the stamina that it takes. Your legs, your core, your back, your obliques, everything is working. So, I think Tiger can get back. I mean, because keep in mind, just like how Flo alluded to, he was a physical specimen. We hadn't seen anybody benching 300 pounds and looking fit, as a golfer. Golfers already looked bad, but he made them look really bad when he was out there in shape, So I hope, Tiger returns to that level, but I'm just glad he's back. Speaking of welcome back, just to get on, I have a hip hop shirt on. This is big, Brooklyn, big up.
Great shirt.
But I just want to ask, speaking of welcome back, who won the battle out of Mesa Cameron? Real quick, Kevin, did you hear both tracks?
I didn't even hear the tracks, man. Take that.
Okay. Flo, who won out of Mesa Cameron?
Murder Mace, no question. Murder Mace.
Okay. I thought so too. I thought he gassed him.
He has some lines in there that you absolutely Cameron needs to address. He threw out a line to where he accuses Cameron of having relations with his own sister.
Oh.
We need now. Cameron retorted and said, "I don't even have a sister. I don't even have a blood sister. What are you talking about?" So, but Murder Mace, Pastor Mace, I believe Pastor Mace.
Mace and Betha.
He definitely has always been a skilled MC, and don't let the laid back flow fool you. Mace has bars, and he gave it to Cam. No, indeed, he gave it to Cam.
Okay, all right.
Shout out to the Dipset. Shout out to the Dipset, and shout out to Cam. Cam is still a legendary MC in his own right. I just don't think anybody expected Mace to come out and do this. It's been 20 years since Cam has been baiting the guy.
Wow.
And now all of a sudden Mace comes out and he does it over Jay-Z's Blueprint 2 beat, which is a legendary beat, and he didn't fail with the
Oh,
bars.
oh, oh.
Mace did his thing on that one.
Man, the hip hop world is on fire. We have rappers we haven't heard from beefing in a long time. But who's really beefing though, fellas? This college football playoff. Okay, it's cooking. There's teams beefing. We just came off of rivalry weeks. Okay, as I know it's a sore spot, I'm not gonna bring it up, but we're coming off of rivalry weeks and. The Power 5 conferences, okay, we're soon going to be unveiled who's in this college football playoff. Now, coming into this week, we have conference title games from the Power 5. Now, I'm going to run them down real quick, and I'm going to want some real quick picks and why. I'm going to start in the Pac-12. We have number 11 USC versus number 21 Stanford. Now, I'm going to get out of the way. This is you guys' field. This is where you guys shine. You guys are all things college sports. I'm going to start with you, Kev. What happens in this USC Stanford game? And, are these guys, can any of these teams realistically, get into the football playoff?
I don't think either one of these two teams can get into the playoff. What you're going to want to look out for in the Pac-12 championship game tomorrow at Levi Stadium, ball control. Can Stanford keep the football away from USC, Sam Darnold, and that offensive juggernaut? So it's going to be the Bryce Love show. Look for 30 to 35 carries for Bryce Love, the outstanding, the Heisman Trophy candidate running back for the Stanford Cardinal. Their dominant offensive line. Defensively, they're getting a little bit better. They weren't very good for the first half of the season. And I think since the Washington game, where they were outstanding against Jake Browning in that offensive crew for the Huskies, they've really improved on the defensive end of the football. Last week, they get the victory against Notre Dame, a hotly contested rivalry matchup. So I really do like the way that Stanford is playing. Time of possession is going to be the key. Can Bryce Love get 30 to 35 carries? If he can get 30 to 35 carries, that means Stanford's controlling the football. If Sam Darnold, on the other hand, if he's chucking it out there 35 to 40 times, that means USC, as far as their time of possession, will be in control of the football game. I do like Stanford in a close contest, 24-21, to avenge the loss that they had against USC earlier this year. USC dominated them earlier this year. At the Coliseum. So I do look for payback for the Stanford Cardinal. They're playing in their own backyard. They're only 15 minutes away from campus. So I do expect the stadium to be it's pretty much a road game for SC. But the winner I do not expect to get into the college football playoff. But I got Stanford 24-21.
Okay. On to you, Javon. Can the Stanford Cardinal, the lower seeded team, can they come in upset minded, not get swept during the season series? Can they beat the USC Trojans?
They absolutely can beat the USC Trojans. As Kevin mentioned, it's going to be a de facto home game for the Stanford Cardinal. They played earlier in the season. USC really did a job on the Stanford Cardinal, but difficult to beat a team 2 times in one season. Particularly even more difficult to beat a team when you have a conference championship that's on the line. I'm going to throw a stat out there which will help support my pick for Stanford. The Pac-12 North has won all of the championships against the South since the existence of the conference championship. I think they're 6-0 thus far in that championship game. Stanford has won, I believe, 2 or 3 of those. So I look for the Stanford Cardinal to win this ball game. I think Bryce Love, his ankle should be a little healthier than it has been over the past couple years. If you haven't seen this gentleman run the football, he's really an explosive back. Not the biggest guy, Not the biggest guy, but very very shifty, has great cuts, and he's able to accelerate when he gets to that second level of the defense. So, and also Stanford's quarterback, KJ Costello, has been playing better as of late. It's always difficult to go against the talent that the USC Trojans bring in. You know, they have four-star and five-star guys all over the place. However, we must give credit to David Shaw, Stanford's head coach. When Jim Harbaugh left, I think there were some questions about whether or not Stanford would be able to maintain that same level of success that Harbaugh had established. Well, 3 years later, 4 or 5, actually not 3, 5, 6 years later, Stanford is still playing for Pac-12 championships. So I think that's a testament to David Shaw, and they still have that same physical, let's pound them, let's whoop them at the line of scrimmage type mentality that they had when Harbaugh was there. So I'm going to pick the Stanford Cardinals to win this rematch. And as Kev mentioned, I don't think either one of these teams has a chance. I think USC obviously would have a better chance than Stanford, but I think they'll fall short of getting into the college playoffs no matter what type of havoc takes place on Saturday.
Okay. I'm gonna take USC in that game. I think Sam Darnold has a big game. I mean, there's nothing to not like about Bryce Love. There's really not. The guy's amazing. Going on to our next conference, the Big 12. Now this game does have CFP implications. We have a number 4 Oklahoma, and we have the number 12 Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. I'm going to start off with you, Javon, in this matchup. Who do you like and why? And if TCU somehow won this game, things get kind of interesting. They may have some kind of shot at getting in. But who do you have winning this game and why?
Well, I'm going to go with the Oklahoma Sooners to win this game. I am a defensive-minded individual, and I appreciate universities that are able to put a great defensive product on the field. TCU Horned Frogs have the number 1 defense in the Big 12, which is saying a lot considering that they don't play defense in the Big 12. But I think the TCU Horned Frogs, they do have a capable quarterback in Kenny Hill, I think, who will be returning for this game. However, you have the incumbent Heisman Trophy winner and Baker Mayfield. That let's be honest, the trophy is going to be his in a couple weeks. Baker Mayfield has a point to prove, especially with all of the negative backlash that he's gotten. And let's keep in mind that Baker Mayfield is still a kid, ladies and gentlemen. I understand that he made some obscene gestures against the Kansas players. I understand that, but
didn't he put the flag in the middle of the field?
That was low grade. Come on,
he put the flag in the middle of the field. But this is where
it's Bush League.
And this is where he's a kid, guys, and this is where I have problems. The pressure that these student athletes face to produce is immense. I understand that college football is not the NFL. There's a certain sector of professional football fans that care nothing about college football. But college football is a big deal. When you're drawing crowds that are upwards of 100,000 folks, and you have traditions at universities that span 100, 150 years, it's a big deal. There's a lot of pressure on these kids. And let's remember, it's a competitive, emotional game. It's competitive. It's emotional. So I don't have a problem with the guy planting a flag, his university's flag, on another team. Didn't Neil Armstrong plant the American flag on the moon?
Oh, come on.
Get out of here. Come on. You probably agreed with T.O. getting in the middle of the star too.
Listen, and from guys as competitive as the two of you, I particularly don't understand why these things are a big deal. You're saying
I'm actually playing devil's advocate. I have no problem with the stuff that Baker Mayfield.
Listen, grab.
I don't at all.
And I figured you didn't. grabbing your crotch is probably not the image. It's not the image that you want to portray to all the young people that are watching the game. I get that. But he
But to
felt
the other team's fans, absolutely, yes. Get all of
he
that.
felt disrespected. They didn't want to shake his hand at the coin
No,
toss, and they
no.
were taking cheap shots on the field. It's an emotional game. You
I
people need
like it.
to. I've seen people that have gotten upset. They get upset at family members and they vow never to talk to them. They cuss them out. They spew venom over the phone. And you're talking about some of the silliest issues out there, let alone another team that's trying to physically assault you on the field, and they're calling into question your skills and ability. So I don't condone the crotch grabbing, but I understand that it gets emotional. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Oklahoma to win this game. I think Oklahoma will get into the college football playoff race. However, if TCU is able to pull the upset, if Kenny Hill is able to get his team to that threshold, then I believe TCU will be the Big 12 champion. However, they won't be a participant in the college football playoff. And now you start some of the chaos that could potentially happen. I think that loss from Oklahoma would open up the door for the Alabama Crimson Tide to make their way into the college football playoffs. And I don't care what any of these teams say out there. It could be SEC foes, it could be Big 12, ACC, Big 10. Nobody wants to see the Crimson Tide in a playoff. You better believe that.
Yeah. Now, look. Now, Alabama's not playing this week. They're the lone team in the top 10 not playing this week. I don't see how Alabama doesn't make it. Honestly, even with the big loss, you know, I don't see them not making it. I really don't. But Kevin, in this TCU Oklahoma game, TCU could get consideration from the committee, possibly outside chance, if they were able to pull an upset. And it would cause a lot of chaos. But do they realistically have a chance against the Sooners? And do the Sooners make it in to the CFP?
Well, TCU has a chance because they play great defense and they have a great quarterback, Kenny Hill. I just don't see that happening. I think Baker Mayfield, although he's a punk, I just think that he's too much. I think
Tell them how you really feel.
Yeah, that guy, man. But I think physically he's too much. I mean, he's a great quarterback. He's probably going to win the Heisman this year. And he has that Oklahoma Sooner train rolling. I mean, when I saw what they were able to do to Ohio State on the road, then I figured that they were going to be in the playoff. Even when they lost to Iowa State, I thought that they would be able to get the train rolling again and get into the playoffs. So I fully expect Oklahoma. I think it'll be a close game, but I think it's too much Baker Mayfield. That offensive line, they gave him great time. He's rarely touched. And they'll be moving on to the college football playoff. If TCU does get the upset, then yeah, you look at Alabama. But let me say this about Alabama, guys. Come on. Alabama, if they were to get into the playoff, they literally had the easiest route, the easiest road to get into the playoff because they didn't have to play the extra game. Number one, they didn't beat anybody on their schedule. They beat Mississippi State. That's their best win. Number two, they lost their quarterfinal playoff matchup. You were in the quarterfinals last week. There's no excuses for any of these teams. You were in a quarterfinal matchup. That was against Auburn. You win that, you go to the SEC. Oh, I'm sorry, a first round matchup was Auburn. You lost that. Okay, so you forfeit your opportunity to go to your quarterfinal matchup, which is the SEC championship. There's no excuses. Your schedule was easy enough for you to run the table. You get your 58-0 Mercer win, which is an absolute atrocity the week before you face Auburn. And then you go to Auburn and you blow a lead. You lose the football game. There is no story for Alabama other than a lot of help. If Ohio State wins, they should get in over Alabama. You can't get in with the easiest route. You didn't even have to play the extra game. So you mean to tell me that you lose in your rival matchup, you don't have to play the extra game, so you get that rest, and then we're going to give you a playoff bid? Why? Because you were great for the last couple of years? Let's really break down Alabama. they can't throw the football. They have a quarterback that can't make throws. Number two, defensively, they're not the same. Their pass rushers are out for the season. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. And their run stopping is in question as well. They're not stopping the run. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. Their back end is questionable. Other than Minka Fitzpatrick, who's a first-round draft pick, this is not your tailor-made. This is not your typical Nick Saban Alabama football team. And if they did get into the playoffs, if they did, they would have to face 3 quarterbacks possibly that can really throw the football down the field and expose them. So this isn't the same Alabama team that we're used to seeing. That team that stops that run, rushes that quarterback, zone blitzing, and get those interceptions for touchdowns, and then running the foot. They're not running the football as well as they normally do as well. So this isn't the same Alabama team. And no, you don't get in. You can't get in. You're going to get in and you didn't even have to play the extra game? Come on, guys. Look, Alabama had their opportunity to get in, and they
there's no shame in losing to the number 2 team.
There's no shame. Absolutely, Sean. You are 100% correct. There's no shame in losing to your arch rival and a team that. And let's take a look at the numbers here. Nick Saban has never beaten a 9-win Auburn team. When he was at LSU, he lost 3 times. And now that he's been at Alabama, anytime Auburn has had at least 9 wins, Nick Saban has lost. So there's a history for Nick Saban losing to good Auburn teams. So I agree. Their schedule hasn't been the greatest schedule. I understand that. But let's harken all the way back to the beginning of the college football season. I think we were on this show talking about the much ballyhooed, the much hype matchup between none other than the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Florida State Seminoles. Yes, it was number 1 versus number 2, right? Was it 1 versus 2, or Florida State might have been number 3? And we were talking about that this might have been the greatest early season matchup in the history of college football. And then Florida State's quarterback, DeAndre Francois, goes down. And all of a sudden now that victory has been devalued because Florida State didn't have a good season. When you schedule that game, you're expecting that Florida State is going to be a great team. So yes, while I do agree that Alabama, they may not be the same as they've been in the past, they have been good enough to hold that number 1 spot down for most of the season. They have been.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Auburn take out what's now 3 different top 25 teams this year?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, come on,
including two number 1s within a 3-week span. So,
and I want to say, weren't 2 of those on the road?
Right.
Well,
I think 2 of those were on the road. Kev, I think you sound like you might have something personal. It's Alabama, man. Okay, so
let's give the Crimson Tide their due. Maybe they shouldn't get in, Kev. I understand, because the conference or the committee has already stated that they place a premium on conference championships. So if a 2-loss Ohio State team gets into the playoff and they win the Big Ten title, I don't think you'll have a lot of arguments about them getting in. But let's be honest. What did Ohio State do last year? They got into the college football playoff after a 2-loss Penn State team went to the Big Ten championship and they beat Wisconsin. Why Ohio State stayed at home, and then they parlayed that ticket into a playoff appearance, and then they got clobbered by Clemson.
That's my biggest problem. That's my biggest problem is that extra game for the team that doesn't have to play the extra game, sitting at home and them getting into the playoff. I don't like that part of it.
No, Kevin. There's we're gonna hit this real quick and move on. But there's differences of opinion on rest versus ready. Do you want to ride the wave? You played. You're used to playing every week, or do you want to miss a week and possibly be rusty? Rest sometimes can be overrated, and these are shortened seasons. These are athletes that are in a physical prime. I mean, are we really worried about fatigue, or do we really think a team getting a week not having to play one game is that big of a difference?
I think it's a team by team basis. For Alabama, the rest comes at a great time because they're hurt. Most of their guys are injured, and they'll be back. They would be back for that playoff matchup, which is probably 45 days. There's a long layoff after this championship week. So most of their guys will be back. So it would benefit them. But let's say like they beat Auburn last week, then they would have to go into this matchup banged up with starters out. And they would just have to suit up and see if they can get it done against Georgia. So I think that it would be an advantage for a team like Alabama, who, yes, number one pretty much the whole season. They don't have to play the extra game. They can get healthy, rest up. Oh, we got a mulligan. We're in the playoff. And all of a sudden, you look at them, they're the at-large team that's in the playoff. Javon, we don't have enough teams to allow at-large teams to get into the playoff. That's the thing. If we're going to allow the at-large team, and the at-large team is a team that didn't win their conference championship, if we're going to allow that, we got to get it to 8 teams. We could take the 5 champions and then add 3.
I will respectfully disagree with you. If the TCU Horned Frogs win the Big 12 championship, I am not putting them in a college football playoff above the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Why?
You have to ask yourself, is the Horned Frogs a better ball club than a banged up Alabama Crimson Tide? They are not.
My opinion.
You must remember that this team in the past couple years, they have a national championship and they have a loss in a national championship to one of the best rookies that we've seen come into the NFL in Deshaun Watson. He was putting up gigantic numbers. So the reason why they lost was because of that man. Now, Clemson has a lot of talent as well, but I am not taking that team and putting a TCU Horned Frog team in. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. So if you would like to put TCU in over Alabama, be my guest.
All right, guys, there's a lot of different ways this can play out. Obviously, I think we both agreed that Baker Mayfield and the Sooners, they move on. They can't be touched. He touches himself anyways. Moving on to the Big Ten. Moving on to the Big Ten, we have the Ohio State, which I'm sure is, you guys are very fond of right now, coming off of last week, versus an undefeated Wisconsin Badger team. They're putting their undefeated streak on the line. I think the Badgers are almost a shoo-in, win or lose, but with the win, it's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered. Who wins in this matchup? I think Ohio State has more to gain. Kevin, I'm starting with you. Can Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes be upset-minded and beat these undefeated Badgers?
They can. But let me say this about Urban Meyer. That guy, I mean, you're going to run JT Barrett just had surgery on Sunday, and he's talking about running him out there on Saturday.
It's the cameraman's fault.
Championship.
It's the cameraman's fault.
He just had surgery on his knee. Aren't you there supposed to protect these players, man?
No.
I mean, aren't you there supposed to protect these players and be like, no. We're not going to run you out there 6 days after surgery.
It was a cleanup on the knee. The guy didn't have ACL reconstruction.
He's getting ready to face.
It was a meniscus cleanup. Come on, man.
Javon, hold on. You're talking to a guy who had.
Go ahead. You remember what
you're talking to a guy who had his meniscus shaved. I need you to give a little bit more empathy to that, man. Hey, I had mine just cleaned up with a laser.
Hey, we saw what happened with Dabo Sweeney did to Kelly Bryant when he was messing with that sprained knee and he couldn't protect himself and got hit against Syracuse and suffered a concussion. Urban Meyer, what are you doing running this man out there? I do think that Ohio State has a chance to win the football game. I like the way that they're playing defense right now. They gained a lot of confidence being able to come back in their big-time matchup with Michigan at the Big House. Down twice, 14-0, and then down again 2014 with the star of their team going out for the rest of the game. What's the young fella's name, Javon, that came in?
Wayne Haskins.
Wayne Haskins. I think that
Dwayne Haskins.
I think if they
Yeah.
start him, I think that they can beat Wisconsin because he can throw the football. Wisconsin's a very good football team, very fundamentally sound on the defensive end. I like their quarterback, Hornibrook. He makes timely throws when he needs to make the throw. I am going to pick Wisconsin to win this football game 24-17 and get into the college football playoff. But this is a game that Ohio State can definitely win. They can definitely win this football game.
All right, Javon, same question. We have the Badgers putting their undefeated streak on the line against the Ohio State Buckeyes coming off of a rival win. Do you think that Ohio State will win this game? And are the Badgers in win or lose?
The Ohio State Buckeyes will lose this game against the Wisconsin Badgers.
Of course,
and I say that because I've watched this Wisconsin Badger football team all season. They haven't gotten any respect. They haven't had a difficult schedule. So the pundits have talked about how they haven't played anyone. But when you watch this team, they have all the makings of a championship caliber team. They play great defense. They run the football with efficiency, and they have a quarterback that's extremely accurate and can convert on third down. That is a recipe that you can ride to a championship. That defense, the number one defense in the country, their linebackers are absolutely phenomenal. Connolly and Edwards, these are guys that find a way to shed blocks and make plays in the backfield. Virtually impossible to establish the run. I believe they've only allowed four teams to rush for over 100 yards this year. They also have Jim Leonard, former Wisconsin safety, as well as NFL safety. He is now their defensive coordinator. He is a gentleman that allows them to run pro defenses, pro sets. So they're really able to confuse quarterbacks and disguise their defenses. So I really like Wisconsin to win this game because of that defense. And I think Hornibrook, as Kev mentioned, will be able to make enough throws to keep that Ohio State secondary honest. I don't see either team being able to establish the run and dominate on the ground, but a telltale sign of who could win this game is the team that rushes for more yards. I think JT Barrett, clearly the guy had a surgery, as you mentioned. So, and this is going to sound like, and Ohio State fans, forgive me, this is going to sound like blasphemy, but I almost think they have a better chance with the Dwayne Haskins kid. What he was able to do in the big house in Ann Arbor with that team being down, what he was able to do through the air. I mean, this guy was putting some dimes exactly where they needed to be. He right now is a better passer than what JT Barrett has ever been.
Yes. Yes.
You get the running threat with JT Barrett, and that's part of what makes him effective. But Haskins is able to put the ball in tight windows.
Right.
Now, last week's performance in relief of JT Barrett, was that an aberration? Is that something that he can duplicate if he had to, given a start? I don't know, but he looked pretty poised to me. He didn't seem like he was.
JT Barrett is Ohio State. This guy is Ohio State. I mean, do you replace the leader? I mean, this guy is the unquestioned leader.
Aren't you the one that just said that the guy had a knee surgery and we shouldn't marginalize how meniscus? You just said
I absolutely said I didn't say ask him to run an option all game. I said, come on, man.
Listen,
keep him away from cameraman. He'll be fine.
Listen, I'm picking the Wisconsin Badgers to win this game. I think it'll be a close game. And now the Ohio State Buckeyes, talent for talent, they can match wits with anybody in the country. And they've already shown that they have the ability to go out and get victories against high-quality teams. But they've shown that they could be had as well. And I think they're going to play the stiffest test that they've played all year, including Oklahoma, and I think they lose 24-21.
Okay, all right. Look, you guys are on fire tonight, okay? This college football playoff is bringing out the best in you guys. This is why these guys are the best analysts in the business. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of insight anywhere else. We're moving on, okay, to the SEC. Now, this is one of these matchups that I think if you win, you're in. We got number 7 Georgia Bulldogs. We have the Auburn Tigers. This is going to be a barn burner. Kevin, I need to know, who are you taking in the Bulldogs Tigers matchup? And if you win, are you in?
Yeah, you win, you're in, and I just don't know how Georgia's going to be able to run the football. And that's going to be the key. They've got to run the ball. They don't want the true freshmen to have to go back there and make throws. And that defensive line for Auburn, they're terrific. I like Auburn in a close matchup, not in dominating fashion, in which just 3 weeks ago, I think Georgia went down to the Plains and down to Auburn, and they got smacked around pretty good. Same thing. They went up 7-0 on their first drive, and then after that, Auburn got it revved up defensively, and they just couldn't run the football. They averaged 1 yard per carry, and you're talking about
that's never
like
good.
Sony Michel, who's a NFL tailback. Nick Chubb, he's an NFL tailback. These are 2 tailbacks that will be playing on Sundays in the NFL for long careers if they can stay healthy. These are every down backs too. I mean, we're not just talking about change of pace guys. Both of these guys are going to be the bell cows for, whatever team drafts those guys. So can they run the football? I don't think they can. I like the way the Auburn quarterback, I forgot his name. They finally have a guy that can throw the football.
Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham.
A lot of heart, a lot of moxie. He makes NFL throws. They can throw the football. So Gus Malzahn has an offense now to where he can chuck the ball down the field, and then he can also run the football with some read option. All the trickery that Gus Malzahn is known for. He's a tremendous offensive technician. I'm going Auburn, 27, okay. Georgia, 17.
Okay. Javon, we have a Tigers team, a Bulldogs team. Who wins this matchup?
I'm going to go with the Auburn Tigers as well. As I mentioned before, very difficult to beat a team 2 times in a season. Very difficult. But when you take a look at the Georgia Bulldogs, what is their calling card? Their calling card is that running game. They want to run Sony Michel, and they want to run Nick Chubb. And that offensive line wants to be physical, and they want to win at the point of attack. That works against almost anybody in the nation. But one of those teams that they can't do that to is the Auburn Tigers. Their defensive front is absolutely nasty. If you're able to stop the Alabama Crimson Tide from establishing themselves up front in that game, in a rival game, I think you're going to be able to repeat that same thing against the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, granted, this is round 2. Expect Kirby Smart and those guys in Georgia to make some adjustments. They will make some adjustments. They'll probably scheme up a couple different plays and a couple different drives to get Georgia some additional points. But at the end of the day, I just don't think they will be able to run the football against that against that Auburn defense. And then offensively for Auburn, Kerryon Johnson's health is the key. You're talking about the junior back from Auburn that has over 1,300 yards rushing. He's got 12 touchdowns. And this is a man. We are talking about an NFL caliber talent that is able to run almost in the mode of a Le'Veon Bell. Very patient, about 6'2", 215, long, lean. And he just pushes the pile. Not to mention, he's a threat when he gets down on that goal line with that Tim Tebow jump pass. So
right.
I think his health is going to be paramount. And if you recall last week against Alabama, he exited that game with a shoulder injury. So last I heard, he's going to be a game time decision. So if he doesn't play, I think this becomes a lot more interesting. But at the end of the day, you do have a developed quarterback in Jarrett Stidham. He's a guy that can run the read option. He also can throw some strikes. Auburn's got some talented receivers as well. But I think the ultimate wild card in this game is going to be Gus Malzahn. You talk about a coach that when there's a big game, you talk about a coach that doesn't leave anything in the playbook. That is Gus Malzahn. He is my favorite coordinator
Mm.
to calling plays. Gus will scheme some things up, and he actually uses those plays in big games. He doesn't use them against the Mercers of the world and the Citadels.
Right.
He uses it against Alabama. So I think that's going to be the edge that Auburn has. The winner is in. Loser is out. Simple as that.
Okay, I like it. I like it. We move on, last but not least, to the ACC, where we have number 3 Clemson going against the U, the turnover chain, all the hype that's been created. I'm going to start with you, Javon, on this matchup. And this is another matchup that I think if you win, you're in. We have Clemson, we have Miami, who's played great, above what a lot of people had as expectation. And Clemson has quite frankly been Clemson. Who do you see winning this matchup? And if you win, are you in?
It's funny when you say Clemson has quite frankly been Clemson. Uh, 7, 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, that would have had a negative connotation to it.
True.
There was a term called Clemsoning, but I think that just speaks to where Dabo, that is just real talk. I think that just speaks to what Dabo Swinney has been able to do with that program. He's one of the finest coaches that you'll have out there. This gentleman has prepared this Clemson team. He stockpiled them with talent, and this team wins big games, period, point blank. We just went on a rant about how we thought that Auburn was going to win the tough SEC championship. Well, guess who beat Auburn earlier in the season?
Wow.
It was none other than the Clemson Tigers that were breaking in a new quarterback. So I like the Clemson Tigers in this matchup. Now, let's go ahead and let's give credit to Mark Richt, the former Georgia Bulldog coach. This guy was like 145-51 at Georgia, and he got fired. I repeat, he was 145-51. He was winning at a 70% clip, but it wasn't good enough for the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia Bulldog fans, you guys need to stop reliving these Herschel Walker days. You need to stop that because Georgia is one of the most talented states for high school football. There's a lot of talent, but when that talent is being spread across the SEC as well as the rest of the country, it's going to be virtually impossible for the Georgia Bulldogs to be able to keep all that talent in state. So Georgia fans, you should be happy with the reemergence of your team this year. But I'll digress. I do like Mark Richt and what he's been able to do in Miami. I think it's only going to get better for that team. He's an alum. He's a guy that's going to be able to recruit those fertile grounds in Southern Florida. And we're only just beginning to see the makings of Miami and the turnover chain. However, they're a year too soon. They are a year too soon. Too soon. The Clemson Tigers, Kelly Bryant, I really like his ability as a dual threat. I love that defense. Brent Venables, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. That team is only giving up 13.6 points a game. So I like the Clemson Tigers to win this. This is going to be a close one, folks. This is going to be a close one. I think the young Miami Hurricanes are going to come in. They're going to play some ball, and they're going to put themselves in a position to win. But Clemson, due to their experience and their championship pedigree, they're going to find a way to win and get into the college football playoff. I'm going to say the score will be 31-24, Clemson.
Okay, Javon says no Clemsoning this year. Okay, Kevin, I'm going to ask you, does Miami realistically have a chance? Are they young upstart? Do they still have milk on their breath? Is it just too soon? Is Clemson too seasoned, too well coached, too many good recruits? Is it realistic that Miami upsets Clemson?
I think Clemson too seasoned. I think defending champions, a lot of those guys came back. It's a year early for the baby Canes. I call them the baby Canes because I promise you this, next year and the following year, they're going to be full-grown Canes, man. They play a lot of young guys, especially on the defensive end. Keep them in the ball game. I think the Canes have a great defense. They lead the nation. I think they're number 2 in sacks. They get after the quarterback. and then they also turn you over with the turnover chain. I think the problem that the Canes are going to have is on the offensive side. Even if their defense is able to get turnovers for them, you got Malik Rozier at the quarterback position for the Canes, and he's not going to light the world on fire. He's a game manager type, a guy that really needs a running game to go along with the passing game. They're beat up on the offensive side as well. They lost two of their big weapons this week due to injury. Amon Richards, who will be an NFL wide receiver, and then Chris Herndon the fourth, who will be an NFL tight end. You'll see him on Sundays next year as well. And then they lost their starting tailback, Mark Walton, earlier in the year as well. So a lot of their weapons are hurt. They had to go deep into the bench. I think Michael Irvin II, I think he's going to start this game at tight end for the U. But I like Clemson in this game. Close game, but I think late it'll start to get more comfortable for Clemson. I think they'll pull away late. That's a pretty good score. I'm going to go Clemson 24, Miami 14. I just don't think they can generate enough offensively. Malik Rozier, he was awful last week at Pitt. And this is a Pitt team that they've only won 4 games this year. And Mark Rick benched Malik Rozier. It was awful. So I don't see Miami moving on, getting the win here. But hey, the Baby Canes, man, they're back, man. They're a terrific football team. I like the direction that Mark Richt is taking them in. And like Javon was saying, they're a year early. Remember, we thought it was going to be Florida State and Clemson in this matchup.
Yes.
Before the injury to DeAndre Francois. So Canes come a year early. I think it's going to be good experience for them. They'll move on to the Orange Bowl probably. They'll get selected to play in that game. But Clemson moves on, and they're going to get a chance to defend their championship. And they are a legit threat to repeat.
Indeed.
Legitimate. And we haven't had a repeat champion, I think, since Alabama, but they are legitimate. Clemson is.
Well, great season for both teams, and we know no matter what, all year round, there's Big Cane in Miami. There's 8 teams that realistically can get in this college football playoff. We have Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Alabama, Georgia, Miami, and the Ohio State. Real quick, guys, I need what 4 teams make it in, and I want to know who the number 1 seed is. Javon, I'm going to start with you. What 4 teams get in, and who's the number 1 seed when they unveil these on Sunday?
The Auburn Tigers from the SEC will get in. The Wisconsin Badgers from the Big Ten will get in. The Clemson Tigers from the ACC will get in. And finally, and this is where I could go either way, but I think the Oklahoma Sooners will find a way to get a victory and get in. Those will be your 4 teams. Your number 1 seed will be the Clemson Tigers. Your number 4 seed will probably be the Oklahoma Sooners. And I think number 2 is going to be Auburn. And then number 3 will be the Wisconsin Badgers.
Okay, Kevin, same question. What 4 teams get in, and who is Don, the number 1 seed?
I got the same teams. The order is just a little bit different. Clemson 1 seed, they will face number 4 seed Wisconsin, and then number 2 Auburn versus number 3 Oklahoma. Those are my 4
Freudian
teams.
slip there.
What was that?
He's at Freudian slip.
A Freudian slip there.
Right. So yeah, I got 1 Clemson, 2 Auburn, 3 Oklahoma, 4 Wisconsin.
That's the exact order I have facing me in my face right now. Okay, guys. Look, now we just have to let these games play themselves out. As always, great college analysis. We're going to kind of get through these other topics fairly quickly because we spent a good majority of time on a great topic. And that was great, passionate analysis always. Great job, fellas. We're going to move on to the NBA where the Cavs defeated the Atlanta Hawks tonight, coming from behind to win their 10th straight. They've been beleaguered with some injuries. Rose is out, mulling his not only nursing his ankle, but mulling his future in the NBA. We may be able to talk about that at a later date. We have Tristan Thompson out with a strained calf. There's Isaiah Thomas still rehabbing, not quite yet, doing fast speed drills, just kind of shooting around, things of that nature. Not yet going in 3-on-3, 5-on-5 drills. And then Shump just got announced that he's out for 6 to 8 weeks, getting his knee scoped. They've turned around, they've turned things around, winning 10 straight on the defensive end, allowing about 13 points less per 100 possessions, guarding the three-point line better. And LeBron James is playing outstanding, getting early MVP consideration in this his 15th year. Kevin, I want to know, what do you think about this Cavs team? Are they rounding into shape, or is it just that now that they're getting their chemistry, or as we've talked about earlier, they just being one of the oldest teams in the league, were they just off to a slow start? Do they need to get some oil in their joints? What's going on over there in Cleveland, because they're cooking right now?
Yeah, they take some time for them to get it revved up. That's all. I think D Wade to the second unit, playing point guard, has really established their bench for him. Obviously, LeBron James, remember, he said he wasn't in great shape early in the season. And he was saying, the ankle injury he had in the preseason didn't allow him to get out on the court, so on and so forth. So he's rounding into shape. They just look like the beasts of the East. I mean, that's just what it is. The top 3 seed is what they're going to end up. And it just looks like they're on a collision course to face Boston again in the East Finals. But, any team with a LeBron James on it, especially in the East, it's a team that we're always going to take seriously. That's a team that we're always going to say, let's wait till they get to April and see where they're at. Not a time to panic right now. Yeah, they're not playing great defensively, so on and so forth. But it just took them some time to get it revved up. I like what I'm seeing from D Wade coming off the bench. I think the best course of action as far as the Derrick Rose situation is to keep him away from the team. I don't see any positive anything coming out positive to allow him to return to the team. Just keep him off the team. Wait for IT to get back. Remember, we still have Isaiah Thomas, 25 a game, who they're going to add to the lineup. So that's going to be very interesting to see as well. But no, they look like the beasts of the East. Like we've been saying, the last 5, 6, how many years that LeBron? The last 4 years, last 3 years, they're the team to beat, and they just got it revved up.
Okay, Javon, we had what did the Cavs? I mean, the Celtics get up to? Was it 18, 17, 18 games?
I thought 16. It was 18. Was it 16? Okay. It might have got up to 18. Yeah,
it was ridiculous. Whatever it is, and they played another great game tonight. Kyrie Irving had 36. Played great. This guy Tatum looks really, really good. Plays really good in the second half of games. And I love that guy, Rozier, by the way.
Absolutely.
So, Javon, the Cavs have won 10 straight. You made it very clear. You're not surprised by this. You're not shocked by this at all. You said that, they're not really tripping off of the regular season. Are they rounding into shape now here, or is it attributable to the fact that, in their last 10 games, maybe they've played teams that aren't even in the top 10 offensively? They're not the best teams. Is it an easy schedule, or are they rounding into shape? Combination of both? What's going on in Cleveland?
I think if we say it's an easy schedule, that's a cop-out. When you talk about NBA teams and getting victories, particularly on the road, especially when you have the cachet of Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, you're going to get everybody's best shot consistently. So I just think that the Cleveland Cavaliers, as you mentioned, has been rounding into form. I made fun of LeBron James earlier in the season when he said he was out of shape, when he was putting up triple-double numbers and playing like LeBron James plays, but yet he still was complaining about not being in shape. How good is LeBron James? Let's really ask ourselves this question. I don't like some of his antics. I don't like his passive aggressive ways, But when, as a basketball talent and as a winner on the basketball court, LeBron James is one of the best to do it. You take a look at this year and what he's doing. Actually, what he's been doing the past 3, 4 years. What's been the knock on LeBron? We've always wanted him to be a closer. Some people would say that Kyrie Irving was a guy that had that Kobe Mamba mentality, and he was a guy that took some big shots for the Cavs. LeBron would kind of get him to a certain point, and then Kyrie would come in the end. You take a look at what LeBron is doing in clutch time minutes. For instance, tonight, I believe it was a 1 point game against I want to say they played the Hawks. Did they play the Hawks? Yeah. It was a 1 point game. LeBron hits 2 crucial back-to-back 3-point shots to put that game out of reach. And he's been doing it all season. Right. So far, I've got LeBron as my early season MVP. It's really making a difference. Some people would say James Harden, but to me, James Harden, his stats are going to always be gaudy. What do you do when it counts, James? What do you do? You're not the king.
What do you do? What do you do?
He makes it rain. He makes it rain in Houston.
Exactly,
in Houston
man.
This guy's
too busy tricking and not showing up mentally or physically to games, man.
That's what he does. You're not the king. You're not the king. And I wish Keith was on. I wish
he was
our
on
good
too.
buddy Keith Moore was on so I could say this right directly to his eyeballs. You're not the king. You're not the king. I'll say that.
The closest he gets to popping champagne is in the club. Okay? So, all right.
Exactly.
Okay, guys. Moving on, we have a team of the Memphis Grizzlies that's just in shambles. I mean, we can start with the absentee owner, who minority owners have a buy or sell clause. They can either offer to buy the team or say you have to sell it to us. They get to name their price. This seems to be realistic. On the heels of losing 8 straight, they fired David Fizdale, which was also on the heels of him benching Marc Gasol in the second half the night before. They're saying that Gasol's a coach killer. We have a messed up ownership situation. Conley's injured. They can't keep coaches. In this short time that this guy's been the owner, you get rid of a Lionel. I want to say Lionel Simmons. Is that Lionel Collins? I want to say the L train. I'm sorry. The Lionel Collins, who wins 56 games and gets to the conference finals and gets fired. And I think it was Jaeger after that, who wins 50 wins twice in a row and can't keep a job. What do you guys think of this decision? And what the hell is going on in Memphis's future? You have a 30-something-year-old Gasol. You have a 30-year-old Conley. Zebo's gone. The identity's gone. You have people with sources familiar with the team dynamics saying it's all a facade. It's a Hollywood mess. There's no good over there. Ever since they got Chandler Parsons, that hasn't worked out as a number 3 guy. Kev, tell me what you think of this. What do you think of the decision and what's going on in the future in Memphis?
Feels like they're trying to get Marvin Bagley the third. I mean, it really does. It just looks like they're tanking. I'm not sure what's going on. They fired 3 terrific coaches,
right,
in succession. I mean, coaches that have won 50-plus games.
Wow.
Allowing players, to walk via free agency. Now, I love the move when they signed Mike Conley to the big contract, and Marc Gasol, who is a coach killer. Obviously, Fizdale fired right after he benches Gasol, but it feels like there might be a sale that's pending. Lowering the value of the franchise. I don't understand what's going on. There's a whole lot of panic. We're talking about a team that just a year ago to 2 years ago was in the playoffs, competing against the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
This is a good franchise. Obviously, they moved from Vancouver. They come down to Memphis. They build the new arena down there, and they got things rolling. So I really don't understand what's going on as far as ownership. It does look like there might be a sale pending, and you alienate your fans who they are terrific fans down there at Memphis. They've given this team nothing but support. They sell out each and every basketball game. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they're a terrific fan base. So you feel bad for the fan base. Obviously, Conley, how long is he going to be out for? How long is he going to
They
be
said
out for?
I think about 4 more weeks with the. I think it's in
4 more
his
weeks.
Achilles.
Okay. So yeah, this is obviously a bad situation. And if you're the NBA, this is one of the better was one of the better run franchises that you could really pin your hat on. But obviously, they've gone down the tubes, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to transpire. But again, you're firing successful coaches, and that goes to show you it doesn't have anything to do with what's going on the floor, but off the floor. There are
So
some
do, so do you
issues with upper management.
so do you keep the mainstays or do you reboot?
Oh, as far as Marc Gasol and Conley,
Right.
you keep the mainstays. It's hard to get talent in this league.
It
It's
is.
hard. It's hard to get talent. You keep those guys. Those are your two bell cows. You can still build around those guys. You can still add
For
players.
how
But
long? For how
but I mean,
long?
when you get rid of those guys, how long is it? You see how long it took Philly to be able to recover way since the Allen Iverson days. They just are recovering. The Lakers, you look at them. They're just starting to recover right now. It's hard to get talent in this league, and when you have guys who are all-star caliber players on your squad, two of them, you got to keep those guys. Now, obviously, if they're asking for a trade, then those are some business decisions that you have to make. But if you're sitting here waiting to get Marvin Bagley, I mean, how long is it going to take for him to be able to take your team to the playoffs? So I'm always in favor of keeping the talent if you can.
Now, Javon, did they blow this Parsons experiment?
I don't want to say that they blew the Parsons experiment, but when you take a look at the success that Parsons had in Dallas and in Houston, Parsons is the type of player that is a good complementary piece. He's a good ancillary piece. He's not a piece that you can necessarily build around and say that this is going to be your number one option. He's a great piece, or he could potentially be a great piece for a championship caliber team because of the skill set that he has. He's a guy that's 6'9", able to shoot the three, and he's a long wing, and he can score in a variety of ways. However, he's not one that's going to be able to get his own shot consistently, and he's not what I would consider a superstar. So I think Kev touched on something. It was an excellent point when he says that the Memphis Grizzlies organization at this point is they've decided that for years, I don't want to say that they've been mediocre because they were a playoff team, but this is not a team that's ever really competed for an NBA championship. They've always been right there. I mean, they had some battles with San Antonio. They had some battles with OKC. If you can remember, there were a couple of times where it looked like they were going to beat OKC when OKC had Durant and Westbrook in a couple of those playoffs. And OKC was barely able to pull out the series. So this is a team that is in dire need of a superstar. They are in dire need of a franchise player. And as good as Mike Conley Jr. is, as underrated as he is not that. Marc Gasol, very underrated passer, very underrated big man. He is not a superstar. They need a face of that franchise. And when you couple that with a lack of leadership from your ownership, then you get what you have now. You probably have split factions within Phoenix. Some of them feel like, hey, we can build around Mike Conley and we can build around Marc Gasol. But then you probably have others that say, but listen, we've been trying to build with these pieces and we still don't have that franchise face. So we want to tank. And other guys are like, well, no, we don't want to tank. Well, it's the coach. Let's get it. We don't really have that name brand coach, but you had effective coaches. So Memphis has always been good, but they haven't been good enough to compete at the very elite level. And so now I think seeing a culmination of the frustration within the front office as well as ownership. And so that has trickled down to the head coach and the team. So it really, really sad to see what's happening. I'm always a fan of any NBA small market team. I think we would consider Memphis a small market team. I'm always a fan of them having a product for their city. With us being Sacramento residents, we understand how big the Kings are to Sacramento, and we've been trash for a while.
Right.
So I always want a city like Portland or a city like Memphis to have something that they can hold on to and that they can be proud of. And it's
Or
really exciting
Seattle. Or
happening.
Seattle, damn it. Jerks. Okay. So so look, obviously this is a really a franchise in transition, in peril. They don't see anything wrong with a little bump and grind, bumping Fizdale from the grindhouse. Okay. Moving sports and moving on to another franchise that is in complete shambles. We're going to move on to the New York Football Giants. We have Eli Manning being benched. Tuesday, Ben McAdoo announces Geno Smith is starting versus the Raiders on Sunday. Didn't overtly bench the two-time Super Bowl MVP. Told him he could start the game if he wanted to continue his streak, which is on 210 games at this point. He started every game since November 21st, 2004. And they said, hey, we're going to give Smith and Webb a look in the last 5 weeks. He opted out of it. He said, that's not what football's about. I don't want to be part of the circus. That's not fair to me. It's not fair to them. Either give them the shot or let me play to win. I'm not here. This is not the preseason. Now we have his best receivers. You have Marshall gone. You have OBJ gone. You have a horrible offensive line. You have no running game. You have DRC earlier, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie being sent home. You have Janoris Jenkins, your best defender, getting benched. You have a coach that's lost the locker room. What do you make of this decision? And what's up next for the Giants and Eli Manning? I'm going to start with you, Javon.
Well, I think we're seeing a common theme across the different sports. The New York Football Giants are tanking. They're tanking, and
Thank you very much.
It boils my blood, this idea or this concept of tanking. It's so disrespectful to Eli Manning. You're talking about a two-time Super Bowl champion.
Thank you.
And you have a head coach. You have a head coach that has lost his locker room, that literally hasn't brought anything productive or positive to the football team. Looking him in his eyes, saying, "Hey, I'll let you start the game to continue your streak, but we want to get these other guys a look." When has Geno Smith ever been a viable option as a starter?
Never.
The most notable thing that Geno Smith did as an NFL quarterback was get his jaw broken when he was the quarterback of the Jets. That was literally the most notable thing that he did.
That's his career highlight.
That's his career highlight. Getting his jaw broken over a bet with a teammate that wasn't trying to hear no. So Geno Smith, Davis Webb, I get it. He's a rookie out of Cal. He can throw it around the yard a little bit. But this season has been, I know so many Giants fans that are really have their heads in despair because of the way this is unfolded. But let me offer a little bit of insight. I think in with those two championships that the New York Giants won, I think we were lulled into a false sense of where that franchise really was. So
Right.
when we take a look at when the Giants won, what was their record? I believe they were 9-7.
9-7. They won like the last 4 or 5.
Right. This was a team that got hot at the right time, and not because they had a great running game,
Right.
but namely because Eli Manning was able to play well in the playoffs.
He was able to make.
And we all know what happens when they played New England both times. They had 2 great catches, one miracle catch from David Tyree, and then there was another catch in the Super Bowl that Mario Manningham had on the sideline to really get.
Shout out Johnny Boston.
What's up, Boston? Sorry about that, man. Sorry I had to bring up old stuff. But this is a team that was constantly teetering on firing the great Tom Coughlin year in and year out. Finally, they got rid of Tom Coughlin. They turned to Ben McAdoo, and now you lose your best receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. and one of the faces of the NFL, and you lose Brandon Marshall, a guy that you brought in, and now, I mean, the O line has been terrible as well. So the New York Giants, this has been coming for a minute. If you take a look at the past 4 or 5 years, so now it's finally culminated in this, where you have Ben McAdoo telling Eli, "Hey, I'll let you start the game." So, and ultimately, they're trying to tank so that they can get a top pick. Do
Right.
they attempt to get Josh Rosen? Or do they attempt to get Sam Darnold, someone that can supplant Eli Manning? I think that's what they're trying to do. And even if they don't get the number one pick, but they do maybe get a second or third or fourth pick. They can bring in Saquon Barkley from Penn State. He's a guy that could finally give you that long-awaited threat at running back that they may need. So they've got options, but clearly they're trying to tank.
Now, Kevin, you obviously loathe this type of thing. We have a 37 now playing the devil's advocate. We have a 37-year-old quarterback who's done everything. We have no line to protect him. Do we want to see him get obliterated in the last 5 games, or do we want to give out and give these other guys a try? Kevin, is this just purely a tanking decision, or is this a decision at some point has to be made with a 37-year-old quarterback who always has had an interception problem, fumbling problem, but just happens to play great at great times? I mean, a lot of people think he's the most overrated quarterback possibly of his generation, although he has credentials to say otherwise. What say you, Kevin?
Yeah, he has the credentials. I mean, he's beat the best quarterback in the history of the sport twice in Super Bowls, big games. I mean, he beat him once when Tom Brady was 17-0, going for 18-0. I mean, that's huge. That carries a lot of weight as far as I'm concerned. Look, Eli was taking a beating this year. I think it was more of a decision by, you know what, you've been our bell cow, for the last 15 years. You're taking a beating. I'm just going to give you a couple of weeks off. I don't think it's necessarily we think Geno Smith is just a better quarterback than you. I just think it's a situation. You have a bad offensive line. You don't have any weapons right now. Eli's taking a beating, and Eli is a warrior. Let's be honest. Anybody who steps on the football field is a warrior, and they want to see this thing through. I mean, a lot of these guys, you would have to carry them out on a cart. So he's not going to be happy about the decision. But if I'm Eli, I take these last 5 weeks off. I get paid. Tired of taking that beating. The coach is going to get fired after the season. This is a tanking situation. They're trying to position themselves to draft either Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. I think both of them have given them the indication that they would go to New York and play. And I do think that Eli's days are numbered there in New York as far as playing for the New York Football Giants. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think Eli does have a year or two left of quality football, but it's a situation where I firmly believe we've seen Eli wear a Giants uniform for the very last time in his career. I firmly believe that they're going to go in another direction.
It's never the way you want to. Never the way you want to see a guy go out.
Never.
Eli.
Anytime we saw Joe Montana finish his career in Kansas City,
the Chiefs.
We saw, we're seeing guys, finishing their
Jerry
careers.
Rice on the Raiders.
Rice on the Raiders, and then he goes
Emmett Smith on the
Seahawks.
Cardinals.
Oh, man.
Emmett Smith on the Cardinals.
I mean, guys,
it's like seeing
on the Raptors.
Patrick Ewing on the Magic.
on the Seattle Sonics too. Remember?
Oh gosh,
the Sonics. Oh man, we've seen the ultimate Jordan on the Washington Wizards. I mean, we don't want to see our favorite players, our heroes. You know what I mean? We don't want to see them in the final stages of their careers. Going from team, I mean, Shaq played for 8 or 9 teams at the end of his career.
Gosh. Seeing him in a Phoenix Suns jersey, seeing him in a Phoenix Suns jersey was horrible. Yikes.
Gosh.
All right, so guys, it's come to that time. It's getting close to late, and I'm ready to put someone on the bench. Who better than Ben McAdoo? Old McAdoo had a farm. You benched the franchise guy that brings 2 rings, who beats the Patriots twice. You guys have one of the highest payrolls on defense, and you got guys running away from tackling. You've lost the locker room. Your team doesn't have any fight. You benched your best defensive players. DRC gets suspended. You keep Flowers in the game, and he's getting Manning killed at left tackle. Shout out Israel Graham. You're throwing players under. You've thrown OBJ and Eli under the bus this year. You lost to a hapless 49ers team. You're a coordinator, a glorified coordinator, not a coach. You know what? I'm calling the next play. I'm taking Eli off the bench, and McAdoo, you're going on the bench. That's how we're ending tonight's show. It's been a great show. On behalf of Javon Tavares, Kevin Cornegay, and me, Sean Dustin, you guys have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend going into December. I'm in holiday season. Christmas songs are playing. I'm rocking around the Christmas tree, having a good time. Well, however it is that you celebrate during the holidays, you know, I'm looking forward to being with family and friends just like these guys, the best in the business. You guys have a great night. God bless.
You do the same. You do the same, my brother.